Tim, how you doing?
What's up, gentlemen? I am part of the family, and I'm very sorry I missed the beginning of this conversation.
He doesn't wear actual headsets because he thinks it looks bad for television.
It does
Meanwhile,
look bad
he's
for
got
TV.
an IFB and just talked for 20 seconds on the air, knowing that he wasn't on the air.
It might have been 5.
It's amazing.
5 seconds?
About 5.
Maybe.
But they just had the argument, and so then we come back, and he did it. Now Don is pulling a Michael and hanging from the rim in celebration.
I don't score
Speaking of
often,
hanging
Tim.
from the rim, have you seen many better performances than Kyrie Irving and LeBron James had last night?
No, I mean, it's tough to even pull up a couple off the top of my head in the same game. No, honestly, the shot making that went on last night was pretty ridiculous, particularly Kyrie, because I thought LeBron was basically given the jump shots that he took. And, I mean, for an NBA player of his stature, he should be able to make those. Now, he hasn't been taking those in this postseason. He doesn't even look at the basket, typically, unless he has a cushion on the scoreboard for outside the paint. But last night he came out and made some jumpers early, and he did his normal stuff at the basket. He expected to. But the shots Kyrie was making, and what he was doing with his dribble against multiple defenders, and no matter who they put in front of him, the array of shot making that he showed last night on a stage that big in a closeout game, I mean, that's about as good as a guard can play as a scorer in this league. He was sensational last night, and Steve Kerr elected to stick with their game plan, which is to play them mostly straight up. They're not going to double and overreact and run guys and trap, and then you end up giving guys that aren't going to score unless you leave them wide open an opportunity to get in this series. He wants these two guys to beat them this way, and last night at least they did.
As great as it was, Tim, it could end up being too little, too late, and LeBron has played some amazing games. He's one of the best players when facing elimination. Why does it take the last straw to get the most out of him sometimes?
Yeah, it's almost as if he has taken moments throughout his career when, it looks like he's just going to get hammered for another loss or a failure or whatever it is that he thinks is going to happen in his mind, how he's going to get beat up. And just instead of playing cautiously at all, which I think at times he does do, he just comes out and says, man, I'm going down guns blazing, and this is how I'm going to go out if I go out. And he ends up having these incredible moments. Last night did remind me a lot of 2012 Boston Game 6 conference finals up there when it looked like he had no chance to go up there and pull one out. And he put on one of the greatest playoff performances I've ever witnessed. What he dropped on Boston, I think 45-15 and 6 or something ridiculous. Barely missed a handful of shots. Last night was similar. It really was. I mean, the only difference was this time he had another guy helping him on the same level. It was really a two-man show last night. And, you could do nothing but pat him on the back because they were incredible. That's all there is to it. They got into a rhythm, and Golden State could do nothing from that point on to disrupt them.
Tim, you mentioned two-man show. When this whole team was designed, it was supposed to be a three-man show. When did Kevin Love become the guy in the pickup game that nobody wants to play? I mean, I remember him being a really good player.
The day he got there. And I think what's happening with Kevin Love a little bit, I think he's being exposed a little bit from this standpoint. When he was in Minnesota, he was on bad teams that never made the playoffs. Everything was run through him. He got a bunch of touches, And look, he looked like a dominant player because he made threes, he made elbow plays where they gave him the ball first in the offense. He drove, he posted up, he got offensive rebounds, he got to the line, he did all of those things, most of which were in meaningless minutes. And now he goes to this team, and it was supposed to be the big three. And early on, it was clear to me that the style of play on this team relegated him to a role that he just was never comfortable with, and it almost as if he just accepted it and decided he was going to be the big sacrificial lamb on this team, and he's going to be basically a glorified role-playing spot-up three-point shooter because LeBron James and Kyrie Irving dominate the ball to such an extent that all Kevin Love has left is that. Now, he does, every now and then, you have this little burst where he gives him some post touches, and and he does some things at the beginning of a game, and typically those are the nights he has better games. But what's happened in this series and why he's completely non-existent is because Golden State is not committing extra help on Kyrie and LeBron. They're going to force those two guys to make a ton of shots, take a ton of shots, and beat them that way. Last night was an oddity for LeBron because he actually made some perimeter shots. But for the most part, Steve Kerr saying, look, if you're going to make a bunch of layups against me and dunks and a few free throws, not going to be enough to beat us. And last night now he threw in some perimeter shooting, and that's why his numbers spiked up so much. But they're not committing extra help. They are determined. They're going to be chest-to-chest with Kevin Love and Fry, Shumpert, Smith, and these guys, and they're not going to let him get in the series. So as a result, Kevin Love, because the offense is so predicated on LeBron and Kyrie drawing extra defenders with their isolation game, he can't get open at all. So he's a complete non-factor. 2 points, 32 minutes, 5 shots, and the only time he gets shots is if he's left somehow alone or a scramble play off an offensive rebound and they get a kick out or transition. That's it. He's not getting anything in the half court because Golden State is dictating we're not going to allow it because you guys isolate every time down the floor, and we're just not going to run guys off of these three-point shooters.
If you're Cleveland, do you try to get Draymond Green to do it again? Do you try to get under his skin because there'll be zero tolerance? And how much does that take Green out of his game in Game 6, knowing that he can't mess around?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the league kind of watches that and see if that happens, because I thought it was a farce that he picked up a flagrant for that. I thought it was ridiculous. I didn't think he deserved it. I thought LeBron instigated that. Now, I do hold Draymond Green culpable in that he did enough in the postseason to lead up to this, to even allow an interpretation to have this happen to him. So he's responsible. But the play that actually put him over the limit, I just didn't see how he could turn that into a flagrant foul. Sorry, I just didn't see it.
Tim, can I ask you something about that, though? Jeff said the same thing, that he thought LeBron was the instigator. I watched the play like 25 times in a row, and Draymond clearly comes up and shoves LeBron with his right arm, at which point LeBron throws his arms up, and then Draymond does his a vintage flop instantaneously. To me, that pisses off LeBron, who then steps over him. Did no one else see that, or is it that the step over is so egregious that is clearly the real instigator? That's really what it is. The step over, to me, takes it to another level. That's like the ultimate thing you can do to a guy laying on the court. I mean, it really is. And then typically when guys step over people, maybe the one exception being Iverson, when he stepped over Tyronn Lue, didn't get up and punch him or tackle him, typically that's going to lead to a fight. I mean, I remember, was it Pippen that stepped over, was it Ewing or Oakley in one of those games?
Was Pippen stepped over Ewing?
And he walked all over the top of him. And I mean, guys want to fight over something like that. It's a testosterone thing. Have another male standing over you, glaring down at you and stepping on you like you're beneath his feet, gum on his shoe. And that's the disrespect that took it to another level. I think the contact that led up to that wasn't really anything excessive on either guy's part in a playoff game. It was the gesture that LeBron made of stepping over him, to me, was what triggered and forced Draymond Green almost to react to that. And even then, the contact that happened after that part of Green, I didn't see it. But, like, again, I'm not wiping the slate clean and saying Draymond Green, what a travesty, because he put himself in a position that any interpretation could even lead to it. And it did. And it cost his team dearly because they were not the same team last night. So will Cleveland come out and try to push buttons? Possibly. I would hope that Draymond Green at this point now understands everything he does is going to be watched so carefully. And actually, honestly, I think everything that the Cavs do, too, because they don't want to be put in a position where the officials have to try to interpret what is going on and who did what to who and who started what. But I think both teams, as far as that goes, I think both teams are going to handle it okay, and we're going to see both teams at full strength the rest of the way, unless, of course, Bogut is out, which we're still waiting to hear, I guess.
Tim Legler on the Tri-State Buick GMC Celebrity Hotline. Before we let you go, gut feeling, do you think there'll be a Game 7?
My gut now is yes, and it's like this is the reason why they don't ask boxing analysts to predict every round who's going to win the round, right? You just predict who's going to win the fight, and I feel like that. I feel like I said Golden State in 7 games. I guess why not? Let's stick with that. I think what happened, clearly Draymond Green is an enormous difference maker on both ends, and his emotion. All of those things they need. But I also think that there's a danger now for Golden State. Going back to Cleveland, you've let LeBron and Kyrie have this incredible rhythm and confidence as they head back, particularly LeBron, now making jumpers. I mean, this is the first game in the entire postseason. He looked comfortable shooting the basketball from the perimeter. So you may have unleashed something that's going to be very difficult to corral back in. And maybe now Kerr has to handle Kyrie differently because he is just breaking down Clay and Steph at every turn. Maybe now you see some double teams on Kyrie. I think you play LeBron exactly the same way and dare him to do the same thing. Kyrie, I think you need to trap him a little bit, get the ball out of his hands. Maybe that leads to somebody else picking up the slack if these two guys drop off a little bit, but it might still be enough to win and force a Game 7 in Oakland. So I say, let's say the Cavs get Thursday and we see a Game 7 in Oakland on Sunday.
Good stuff, Tim. Thanks for joining us as always.
My pleasure, guys.
Thanks, Tim.